I just cried. I could cry right now. You just cried like a child.
Susie Casper Leiter recalls that painful goodbye, not knowing if she'd ever see her parents again. It was 1939 and she was 14 years old, escaping from Nazi Germany on a children's transport to France. You can see Susie here in this archival video 2 years later, right before boarding a ship from Portugal to the U.S. Her family's Holocaust survival story is a remarkable one. Susie and her parents miraculously reunited in New York in 1942. But here in present day on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, we met the vibrant 94-year-old and her grandson Jake to hear another extraordinary tale. It's about an unexpected discovery, which meant their family story had not yet been fully written.
It was a magical story that, you know, the Bible could have been found after all these years.
An unbelievable series of events unfolded that Susie and her family never imagined could have played out. Here they are now, united with this irreplaceable heirloom that belonged to Susie's late husband's grandparents, named Edward and Ernestine Leiter, who are Jake's great-great-grandparents. As Hitler rose to power, Nazis forced Edward and Ernestine to move into this house in Oberdorf, Germany, crammed in there with several other Jewish families. That's when it's believed that Edward and Ernestine hid this 22-pound, 1874 version of the Tanakh, which is the Hebrew Bible comprised of the Torah and filled with descriptive illustrations.
Not totally surprised, because I knew that many of the Jews during the bad times, during the terrible Hitler years, hid their things in between walls and doors of furniture, etc. What surprised me was the years that passed, that no one had ever noticed it before.
For 50 years, 48 years, it was hidden behind a double wall. In 1990, a man bought the home. His son and him renovating the house, he was up in the attic, found behind a double wall in a chest, Bible, letters, jewelry.
That father and son never returned the jewelry or letters, but did sell the Bible on eBay nearly 3 decades later for 65 euros. Fortunately, the Tanakh ended up in the hands of an art historian who then donated it to a synagogue in Germany. That art historian later contacted a staffer with the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum, which is based in Washington, D.C. That's where researcher Joellen Decker works, who found Jake on LinkedIn and sent him this message telling him about the Tanakh. Arrangements were soon made for the heavy Bible to be hand-delivered to the Leiters in New York.
It's never happened in terms of repatriating an item. I've worked at the museum for 13 years.
A huge accomplishment for Joellen and her team, who believe stories like this one remind future generations of all the individual lives lost during that dark period in history.
Without those microhistories, you have no larger history. You have no context in which to really put what happened to people together.
In August of 1942, Edward, Ernestine, and the other Jewish families packed into that house were sent to the Theresienstadt concentration camp. It's believed that the Leiters hid their precious few possessions, including the Tanakh, right before their deportation. The Bible has been traced back to their family because this card with Edward's name on it and some other information was found inside the Bible.
Part of the family's been regenerated. And, you know, I look at the Bible, and I'm just fascinated by the beauty of the script. So periodically now in the evening, if I want to be closer to my husband, who died almost 12 years ago, I read it like a book, and I find it just beautiful.
Those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. So I want my kids to know that that's real life. This happened, and not that long ago. So this is a real tangible item that they can see and look at, and I can tell them that their great-great-great-grandparents once held, and it's, I want them to know. That's it.
Edward and Ernestine were later deported to the Treblinka extermination camp where they were murdered. Susie and Jake vowed to make sure their legacies live on and that these unimaginable stories of horror serve to educate generations to come. Dana Arshan, Fox 5 News.
Wow, what a remarkable story.